Another gentleman, it was the sports reminiscence book that he really liked. Big rugby fan, big football fan, and what would happen is he would look at the book with his wife, and I would be there just to, to give a little bit of guidance. And then after that, we'd get the little soft rugby ball out, and he'd be chucking it about and laughing, going through the pictures and them having a giggle and looking at each other, because I was still madly in love, even though he was quite advanced in his dementia. Special moments, man. My name's Weddle, and I'm a Therapeutic Activity Coordinator at Borders Specialist Dementia Unit in the Borders General Hospital. Generally, when the ward's full, it's 12 people maximum, at various stages of the dementia journey. It was about 3 years ago. I had an email from a colleague who was working at a nursing home in Kelso, and she had said, "Oh, I think you should go along to this." So I did, and I'm very glad that I did. The benefits were that it was free, that it was easy accessible for me. I am quite au fait with computers, but that's not the case for everybody. But after COVID, it is more readily available where you can have face-to-face. The training was really quite straightforward. The initial beginning of the training, it includes a brief description of signs and symptoms of dementia, which I thought was an excellent thing to have. I spend a lot of one-to-one time with people, and I get to know them and I get to know their families. I collect a lot of data on the ward, which goes to the care plans and helps us devise person-centred care. Get to know their interests helps me find a way in through the reading is caring. You can use a variety of things. It doesn't just have to be books. You can have newspapers, you can have magazines, you could print stuff off the World Wide Web. There's a multitude of things out there. I would say I use more poetry. It's something that I enjoy too. There was a gentleman that I was working with. I did a lot of work with him last year, and he used to be an English literature teacher for a couple of years, and he had a massive love of books. Oh, really, anything and everything. Poetry, sci-fi, very articulate gentleman. And he had a love of Shakespeare, and we would. This was something new as well that I took from our reading, is we used to do little plays. So we did Romeo and Juliet, a couple of acts out of Romeo and Juliet, and we also did some research into his favourite poets as well. Wordsworth being a favourite poet, and the other one was he really loved Christina Rossetti, and there's a certain poem called Goblin Market. And it's a very, very long poem, an excellent poem. And we would take turns in reading pieces of it. And if there was times when he wasn't feeling so good or he wasn't having a good day, then I would take it from that. And he used to always say, "This poem makes me so hungry," because it's talking about the food at the Goblin Market. Yeah. So whenever I think that makes me smell, some of the poem, just hold the hand and it's calm. And they remain relaxed. And there's one poem in particular about the otter, and there's a lot of ebb and flow pertaining to the water. When I read this one, folk fall asleep, and I have used it, some of the poetry, or reading from a particular book or a poem that someone likes, when they have been at the end of their life, and it's something nice that I can do for them. And I can still picture the faces of the folk that I've worked with the books, Making a quality life, it's about living with dementia, having a life with dementia, you still can, and having a quality life, and to make each moment matter. That's what's important.